Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to our Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. We'll start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first on our agenda is our attorney, Matt Shipman.
Good afternoon. The only things I have to report are that, the documents, the resolution of the grant agreement that are in here today I've reviewed and they're fine. We did close on those Solterra bonds finally last week. So other than that, I don't have anything to report unless you guys have any questions for me.
I don't think so. Did I ask you about the landfill? Okay. Whether we were considering the sale of that, but we have to make sure. I talked to Item is okay with it. But I mean, are there any? What are our responsibilities with that?
Okay. I can investigate that.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Burkett, WIC budget discussion.
Scott had presented, I think last month, the concern that WIC had decreased hours for the department, and in doing so had decreased the amount of pay that our employees would be getting, a couple of them in particular. And that includes Danielle Henderson, our breastfeeding coordinator, who has managed a great program and done really well. So what his proposal and what we had proposed is adding some extra hours for her in the health department. And he has, and I don't know if he's given you, he's presented some of this to the personnel committee already. And the proposal is that from October 1st through December 31st, because the WIC budget, WIC years goes October 1st through September 30th, that we would then pick up some extra hours for Danielle. It would be an equivalent to 12 hours per week. We might have to plus up the pay for Sarah, our department director, as well, but it would come up to imagine somewhere around $3,120 for the remainder, for the 13 weeks remaining in 2021. And then these monies we would be able to shift from that one, from an accreditation grant that we already have, into a line item for the budget of the remainder of this year. And then next year would be some money coming out of accreditation and tobacco grant for 2022. What we're requesting today is just permission to shift those funds without having to request any further funds from the county.
Okay.
We'll present the same to the council tomorrow morning.
So I guess what we're looking for is a favorable pass.
Yes.
So this is all under the assumption that we would be awarded the accreditation and tobacco grants.
Yes.
And if we weren't awarded those grants, where would the money come from?
The money would be refunded through some money from COVID funds that we are supposed to be getting, from our vaccinations and so forth. Those grants are something that have been a year-to-year type thing. I don't know of any reason that they wouldn't be awarded.
Sure.
So I don't have an absolute answer for you.
Okay.
Well, I think the programs are really important.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I would recommend a favorable pass to council to continue to fund WIC and their breastfeeding program.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the favorable pass.
Second.
We've got a second. Discussion. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Next, we have Paula Worden, 2022 Advisory Board meeting dates.
About your signatures. So I'm just here to get your approval of the 2022 Wilton County Community Corrections Advisory Board meetings, as well as the executive committee meetings. I have reserved the rooms ahead of time that are listed there, and they were accepted. Once I have your approval, I'll put them on the website. the meeting dates.
I have no problem. I'll move that we approve the dates as requested.
Okay, we
Second.
got a motion and a second to approve the dates as requested. Do you have any further discussions? All those in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, the same.
Let me just get a copy. And then sign.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have Nathan Bilger, our Planning and Building Director.
Good afternoon. Have three kind of random items, so what order do you want to take them in?
Let's do the plat approval first.
Okay. This is a secondary plat approval for Wagner subdivision, which was considered by the Planning Commission several months ago. And it just took a little while for the different underlying pieces of property to come together. Actually, it was even longer ago than I thought. Back in February was when the Planning Commission approved it. So what happened was there was some discussion of exactly what easements would need to be in place and so on. So they have it all put together now and ready for your consideration. There is a right of way being dedicated and, like I said, some additional easements in place for the sanitary sewer. This is down in Jefferson Township.
Nathan, if I remember right, this was passed unanimously. by the Planning Commission.
I don't recall if it was unanimous, but I'm sure it was. Yeah.
I'll move that we approve the request as presented.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the Wagner subdivision as presented.
Second.
Got
a second? Further discussions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Which one next? Rezoning?
Yeah, let's go to the rezone.
Okay. That last one's a bit of a discussion item, more of a discussion item. Okay, so next up, I have a favorable recommendation for petition 21 WREZ5, which was a rezoning of about a third of an acre, a little over a third of an acre, for a property along 650 West, just north of the TAPS Sales and Salvage facility, which is just north of US 30 on the east side of Larwell. They're looking at doing an expansion of the facility, and in order to get enough room to accommodate the tax, they acquired property from the surrounding landowner, which is currently zoned AG agricultural. And they're splitting that off, incorporating that as part of the overall TAPS property, and doing so needs to be rezoned IPM. The remaining part of the AG property that they acquired, it's a fairly sizable tract of, I want to say about 100 some acres, is remaining AG, and they're still planning on leasing that out for farming. They're not really, other than TAPS, there's no real plans for going eastward with industrial. So this is a fairly small piece, again, just north of the existing facility to allow for their expansion. Received favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission back in July and, in August. And there was one remonstrator who expressed concern that I just relayed, that she was concerned about expanding as an industrial park farther east. So, do you have questions for me?
I'll move that we approve the request as presented.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve as presented. We got a second. Any further discussions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you.
And that should be ordinance number
2107.
Thank you. And finally, this was an item that I brought up and gave you some detail on at the last meeting. And I put that discussion in writing in the memo that I distributed before the meeting. What this is it's a request from the Churubusco Plan Commission, to the commissioners to rename a portion of State Road 205 that is currently named East State Road 205 to West Whitley Street. And in the packet there is an aerial view of the addresses in question.
We're listening.
That's okay, thank you. Appreciate getting the special pen back. So this came up because the Nazarene Church has had some issues with people using Google Maps and so on and finding them. Basically, if you put their address in, you wind up with a location somewhere in town, sometimes the bank, someplace, sometimes elsewhere, sometimes Columbia City. Don't really know because the address numbers and the street name don't line up. The numbers are based on West Whitley Street in Churubusco, but the name again is East State Road 205, just like everything else down to Columbia City and even in South Whitley, a portion of South Whitley. So in order to resolve that, the commission has numbering jurisdiction within their jurisdictional area for state statute. They do not have jurisdiction over naming because it's outside the town limits. You guys, as the executive, do have that naming authority. So that's why this is coming before you. The commission settled upon an address number for the church of 1040 rather than 1000. So that should put them in line with all the other addresses and resolves that portion of the issue being out of sequence. But the naming is still an issue, and that's what I'm bringing before you. So again, in the little handout that I gave you before the meeting was a memo that outlines in writing what's being discussed, a map showing the properties in question. In addition to the church, there are 10 properties that would be affected by this. Their number isn't changing, but the name would be. In my experience, the post office typically guarantees up to 1 year, at least 6 months, up to 1 year, sometimes longer if depending on who the carrier is, to deliver to both names. So someone could address to 902 East State Road 205 or West Whitley Street, and you would get to the same place for about a year or so. There are notifications that are required by state statute when you do name changes, and either my department or the town of Churubusco, because this is their plan commission requesting it, will take care of that. The state has to be notified, post office, of course, 911, and so on. I guess the last thing, this is coming also from a place of concern over emergency calls. Occasionally we do have issue with particularly EMS, who may be people from outside the county, who again put it into Google or something and they wind up going to the wrong location. I don't think that's happened very frequently, but it is a real concern that's out there that this would help to address. So any questions?
It all makes sense to me. Is it your recommendation that we approve the resolution?
That's my recommendation. The dividing line winds up being along a quarter section line, basically east of Country Hills Drive, where there isn't anything right now. So it's a convenient dividing line. Minimizes the number of people being renamed to just those with the address discrepancy. So yes.
And this would be resolution number 2021-08.
And the last thing on that, the effective date is October 1st. So if you wanted to discuss whether that's appropriate or not, I put that because it was a convenient date more than anything. Again, knowing that there'd be some overlap in postage.
You said that's October 1st?
Yes.
Make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-08 with an effective date of October 1st.
Second.
Got a motion to approve as presented with the change of October 1st, 2021 for effective date. We've got a second. Further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that covers everything I had.
Thank you, Nathan. Next on the agenda is pollution liability application. I think we've all had a chance to take a look at that. I don't know. I think we just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of the landfill and the liability that we have with that.
Did this come from insurance, Jenna? Is that where this originated from?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be Freeburg. Is who our insurance company is through Star.
And are there changes to an existing policy for this, or the rates are all the same? It's just a renew?
Yeah.
And it's still being monitored by SME.
Yeah.
Is that the company?
SES.
SES, okay. I don't see any issues with it.
Are we making a motion to approve it, or what is it? What's required today? And would that just be one signature?
It does just look like it's one signature. It's on page 4.
Right. Guess we're just looking for an approval for the
I'll
chair to
move that
sign.
we approve the application to be submitted with Commissioner Shump's signature.
Second.
Got a motion, we got a second. Further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have Brandon Forrester, Highway Department update.
Good afternoon. I don't have much, but our bridge inspection contract that is upcoming, I asked Matt to review that. It has to be approved by NDOT before we can execute it. So that's been reviewed and forwarded to NDOT. So once we get that, their blessing, then I'll bring that to you to execute. Update on chip seal. We finished September 1st chip sealing. We did about 62 miles, centerline miles. And so now we're working on drainage and ditching and berming and things like that, or for roads that we anticipate to possibly be doing next year. And depending on how we come out with finances, we might start working on a gravel road conversion project. Waiting on some invoices for that. Community crossings update. Brooks Construction started paving last week. That would be our phase 1 for this year. And they started out on 650 West. They get down there, they'll move to Raber Road. And finally, our ADA federal aid, community crossings, we got a letter from NDOT, which is the segue to my next thing, where they are saying that we may be non-compliant with Title VI and ADA requirements, and that if you are not compliant, it could affect your funding for federal aid and community crossings funding. So I sent a reply to an email about that, and I haven't, as of until noon, I hadn't seen anything back from them yet, but I'll obviously keep you updated on that.
Good.
Because we do have a community crossings application that I submitted in July pending, and then we have our ADA federal aid project that is pending right now. We're in scoring mode for consultant selection. So that's all I have for
Okay.
any questions for me?
Well, we appreciate all you're doing. That's a lot of miles of chip seal.
Yeah, we'd like to do more. If we had more funding, we would. But we're getting the roughest roads, and we've started with the paving and doing some wedging. We do some wedging with some cold mix before we chip seal. So that's helping. Again, if we had more money, we would do more.
Are you going to have the tractors out mowing, and is that something?
They've been mowing.
Have they?
Yeah.
Okay.
All summer. Typically about after we get done chip sealing, our guys open up, and we have part-time guys that mow during the summer, and so we let them go for the season, and then our guys take over and they'll mow their own territories and cut things back. You know, the corn is up. We've had some complaints about sight distance. Sometimes it's legitimate, and other times people just don't want to stop at a stop sign. They want to kind of coast through it. And with the corn up, that's hard to do sometimes, or dangerous. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brandon.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the jail project discussion. I think we're good, coming along with that right now. We're looking at an owner's rep at this point. I don't know if you wanted to bring anything forward on that.
The only update that I would have is that a group of us toured the Adams County Jail last Monday, I believe. And it was 4 members of Whitley County Council and 2 members of Columbia City Council. I think the tour went really well. I think that we had a consensus amongst ourselves about about the design of the jail and how it would really fit our needs in Whitley County. I followed up with our jail commander and had a conversation with him as well, who he remains eager to be part of the design process. But that would be the only update that I have at this time.
Okay. Teresa, did you have anything?
So I think where we're at now, I came in assuming we were picking our architecture firm today. However, we need to vet our owner's rep. So we will be doing that to ensure that we get the right person for the job. Obviously, we've said this time and time again, we've never built a jail. So we want someone who has done that many, many times to come alongside us and help us to make sure that we're doing it correctly. And they're looking out specifically for Whitley County's interest. So
Well,
that's where we're at.
I would just add on to that, if I may, that we really feel comfortable with one architecture firm. And I don't think that's a secret. And I don't think that there's any reason for us to not think that they would have our best interests. But I'm kind of pushing for an owner's rep as well. I just want to be transparent on that. Like, not that I'm trying to stall anything. I just would feel most comfortable if we did have someone to guide us in that process.
Okay.
So hopefully that won't take near as long as we've taken with this last process. So, yeah. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay,
Unless
thank
do,
you.
George.
Next on the agenda, we have payroll and accounts payable claims approval.
I checked them today and everything looked good. There were not very many.
So do I have a motion for approval of the accounts payable?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you. Can I get a motion for approval of the payroll vouchers?
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? Discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you. Okay, we have the previous meetings minutes, August 16th, 2021. Any amendments, changes?
I'll move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Got a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Second.
Got a second? Discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Thank you. Matt, did you have anything further?
Nope.
Jana?
The only thing I have is I haven't been here for a couple weeks, as you guys know, but I just wanted to let you guys know that our 2020 audit has started with the State Board of Accounts, if you didn't already know. They do two separate audits now. They audit our federal awards, and then they also do one on our financial statement. The federal awards are it's already completed. I've already had like just a little meeting with her, and we will have no findings on that. Everything looks good. And then they're still working on our financial at this moment. So, but everything's going good. So just wanted to give you an update.
Commissioner,
I have nothing.
Commissioner?
The only thing that I have to add is for our ARPA funds that we received, the county had to designate one person to the Department of Treasury to log in and accept those funds and log back in and submit all the compliance forms. So Auditor Schimbuckler and I have been working on that together to get all of that in. So we got everything done. We went to submit it and it said that we didn't have the credentials to do that. So we emailed IT and they have not emailed us back, but it sounds like a lot of other communities have had the same issue with it. So we're just kind of waiting. The deadline's passed. We haven't heard anything. We're assuming that they're extending it since we're not the only community that's had this issue. And we've been told that it's just a technical error. So that is all.
Thank you.
Nothing else.
Anyone from the public have anything? Then we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.